Welcome to Destination Animation, your trip around the world of cartoons and anime, stop motion and puppetry, special effects and CGI, and everything in between. I am your host, Carrie Dreblow.
And I'm your host, Becca McGraw.
And I'm your host, Jason Knott, and today we're talking about Laika's first feature film, Coraline.
Coraline.
Technically, the first film they worked on was Corpse Bride, but that was contract worked.
Sure, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I guess they did little Pillsbury commercials and stuff, too.
Yes.
So, I saw it while it was in theaters, initially in, 2009?
Yes.
2009. I saw it with my cousin. I remember that. I believe we rushed to see the last show, in our town. And, I'd seen the commercials and everything and really wanted to see it, but we didn't get to it until right at the end. And
I really want to see it.
Yeah, and we both just fell in love with it.
Yeah, that's the same for
Great
me.
movie,
basically.
So, yeah.
You saw the trailers for it. It looked really cool, looked really creepy. And, I like stop motion animation, so I was like, I want to see it. And apparently, my little sister read the book for her, 6th grade reading class or English class or whatever it was. So she saw it first with my mom, and they didn't like it, apparently. But then I went with her to see it, and I quite liked it.
Yeah.
Very much. In 3D.
Well, what's wrong with you, parents? My gosh.
I saw it in 3D as well, yeah.
Yeah, me 3.
Yes, 3D.
Great 3D movie. 3D was the hot stuff back then.
Yeah, this was at the tail beginning of that whole resurgence of 3D. And this was before Avatar too. So when Avatar came out, that was oh my god, 3D, everything has to be 3D now, even if it sucks, like Last Airbender. But
yeah, was 2009 the same year that the Alice in Wonderland?
No, that was 2010
version. Okay, so.
Oh, but Carrie, what's your story seeing this movie?
My story seeing this movie is that, this was right around the time that I was, super hyped about the whole Disney Renaissance, John Lasseter taking over Disney Studios thing, so I was, hugely getting into animation. I just become a Miyazaki fan. I saw the trailers for this, it looked cool, and me being totally a slave to the critical reviews, I'm like, oh wow, this has a 90% on Rotten Tomatoes, awesome. And so I went to see it in 3D, and it was amazing.
So
and
yeah.
I've just been a ridiculous fan of Laika, I don't know how to pronounce it, and all of their stop motion work ever since. And yeah, I have a lot of holy smokes, gushing, this is amazing opinions about the production of this movie.
So listeners,
as do I.
Spoiler alert, listeners, we're probably going to recommend this movie at the end. Yeah.
What?
As we have most of the movies we've
It's
talked
true.
about.
Don't worry, guys, we're going to watch a bad one at some point.
At some point. I have
Yeah,
ideas.
eventually we're probably going to catch up to all the movies that are we're going to talk about animated movies that are currently coming out. So yeah, probably not all of those are going to be good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very good 3D movie.
Very good.
Stop motion translates so well to 3D. Probably, I don't know. Do I want to say better than any other medium? That's a bold statement.
Well, with, CG animated movies, you have that sort of sameness to, the characters are actually, three-dimensional. So
Yeah.
it's a little easier than, say, Lion King in 3D, which was very good. But, it made the characters feel kind of flat, because, 2D.
Yeah, and that's the thing about stop motion compared to just about any other animated medium is it is a physical, real thing.
For sure.
So,
Absolutely.
to me, 3D just adds to that sense. And the way they actually had to film the 3D was interesting. So, listeners, if you don't know, when a 3D movie is being filmed, it's filmed from 2 cameras that are set about the distance of human eyes apart. And that's what creates a realistic 3D effect. So for this movie, which is stop motion, and they use a bunch of little miniature puppets, they had to develop a special camera that would shift, because the distance it would have to move between the 2 eyes is so small they couldn't actually use 2 cameras. They had to shift one camera and take the 2 photographs as they were filming. They couldn't use a traditional 3D camera because it would mess up with the depth perception of the whole thing, but it's neat. A lot of new technologies were developed for this movie.
Yeah, this was the first stop-motion movie to be filmed in 3D, specifically for 3D, which explains why it's so good, because, like I said before, those movies, after Avatar and the whole, we gotta put 3D in everything, a lot of it was just slapped on 3D that didn't look good at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, Alice in Wonderland.
What was it? Clash of the Titans?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, just all those movies that they didn't film in 3D and they just converted it in post.
Ugh.
No,
Yeah.
just don't ever do that.
2010 was a terrible year for 3D in general because, riding that Avatar hype train.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, Coraline was one of the movies that looked really good in it, though, in addition to Avatar. And, critics liked the Pixar Disney conversions, but I was kind of like, yeah, well, that was sort of a waste of $2. It didn't really add much to my viewing experience. But this movie, definitely. I am super glad I saw it in 3D.
Me too.
absolutely. Yeah, for sure. It was made for it, but not in a hokey way,
No.
I would say.
There's only one, really kind of hokey moment, and it's at the tail, the start of the movie where, you see that the doll being sewed together, and, at one point a pencil goes through, a button, and, just sort of, passes through to, the camera, and, that's the only real moment that you're like, ooh, 3D.
Yeah, the needle coming through the cloth.
Yeah.
There are a couple of moments that were significantly enhanced by the tunnel scene. It looks very cool in 2D, but in 3D, it's you see this tunnel just expanding and you see the depth increasing. It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
And then also the dad and the piano hands, they kind of jump out at you. But again, it's
Yeah.
the effects totally work in 2D. It's not well, this would be exciting if I was watching it in 3D. Thanks.
Yeah, even the needle I can't fault because it's just a cool image.
Yeah, it is really cool.
Yeah. So, our listeners, I assume you know what stop motion is, because we've talked about it at this, up to this point, as if you would. But just in case you don't, so stop motion, it's an animation technique which uses puppetry. So basically, a puppet with an armature underneath is posed, photographed, posed for the next frame, photographed, posed for the next frame, photographed. It's a very grueling art.
Yes.
Beautiful results, though.
It's kind of similar to hand-drawn animation in that every single frame has to be done separately.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no algorithm. Well, Laika does use some algorithms to help them out with making the faces match up perfectly, but in terms of the motion of the characters, it is really every single frame.
For sure. And it's the reason why this movie took so long to make. It took the better part of 5 years, I think.
Yeah. And to me, stop motion always just has a feel that other forms of animation don't. In Coraline, you can see it. It's kind of hard to explain. It's something that might almost be a criticism in any other form of animation, but you can see signs of the work. In this movie, there's this cat character who's covered in fur, and as he animates, you can see his fur kind of shifting. That's from the puppeteer's, fingers handling the puppet.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
It's more of a herky-jerky kind of motion.
Yeah, you can definitely see it in some of the characters and the way they move, too. And it's really cool. It's not a detriment to the movie at all.
Yeah. If you'll permit me to go on kind of an animation nerd tangent for a moment,
Do it.
Always.
I feel the appeal of 2D animation is the artistry involved. It's you can see that you can see that this was painted, and in stop motion, it's the motion. It's thinking about all the work that went into moving every single object in the frame. Where in CG, it's you're not as impressed by the motion, where what you can get is this incredible depth of field, where you have these huge, deeply layered shots. So it's all forms of animation have their own things that can really blow you away. Stop motion is definitely one of those ones where it blows my mind watching this movie and thinking that all of these individual elements in the frame were posed. It's unbelievable to think about.
Everything had to be fabricated.
Mm-hmm.
Everything.
Yeah, just like the old Disney movies where they, you're watching Fantasia and it's how the heck did they do this with just paper and pencil and paint?
For sure. I remember seeing the special features on the, Blu-ray DVD and seeing the little little tailor, I guess, making Coraline's clothes with a very small needle and thread, and everything had to be made. It's crazy.
The clothes in particular are very interesting. I had the name of the person who does all the wardrobe, because each puppet needs a wardrobe.
Mm-hmm.
Deborah Cook, legend.
Yes.
So all of these clothes have to be fabricated. You can't just use doll clothes or Barbie clothes. You can't even use regular fabric. If you have to give a character jeans, for example, you can't use full-scale denim. It's not going to look right on that small scale. it's all going to be fabricated.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Enormous amount of like detailed work.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of the things with that. Like, it's kind of the fascinating thing with those tiny things. Like, you just wonder, how did they make that version so tiny? It must have taken like so much precise goodness.
Yeah, and like you look at the movie in motion and you forget that Coraline is like 3 inches tall.
More like 6, but
Whatever.
Yeah.
Like she's very small.
It doesn't look like it.
She's very small, is the thing.
the production of this movie is so interesting.
Yeah,
It
if
really
you have the chance to like, go into the extra special features in the DVD and see how it was made, do it.
I do want to make one more note about the production. This movie pioneered a new method of facial animation. Well, that's not entirely true. It uses replacement animation. They use the same technique on Jack Skellington in Nightmare Before Christmas, where the entire face plate is replaced to change expressions. But they did 2 new things with it. First being they split the face at about the nose right under the eyes so they could animate the brows and mouth separately, effectively multiplying the amount of expressions they could make. They also used 3D printer technology for the first time. So they basically animated the faces in a computer and then printed the faces. But this was before there were color 3D printers, so everything then had to be hand painted. And for some reason, some masochist on the design team gave Coraline freckles, which must have been a pain.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe they updated it with like Paranorman and their newer movies, but yeah.
So let's talk about the very first scene in this movie and how great it is as an opening credit scene.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Basically the opening scene is this. We don't really see who it is. We see like these needle hands stitching, and it's this little doll, and we see the seams breaking, we see the stuffing come out, we see the hair coming out and being sewn back in.
Like, all while this really atmospheric, creepy, nonsensical choir is playing in the background, and it's the first taste of Bruno Coulet's, like, fantastic score of this movie.
It's such an interesting score. It's so haunting, and it's got these kind of nursery rhyme-ish songs that are...
Yeah.
They're vaguely French-sounding, but it's all, gibberish.
Yeah. And there's there's a lot... Yeah, I love that. There's a few, like, discernible words like dreaming, like, and stuff like that.
It has the cadence of an actual language without actually really saying anything. It's really cool.
Yeah. Like, I really love opening credit sequences. I wish movies would do them more, and this movies is just so good.
Yeah, and they're just scenes that set the atmosphere, which, this one does. It's like, it gives us a little, like, it's kind of creepy in how deep... I don't know how to put it, but it's like creepy in how detailed the construction of the doll is. Like, it's realistic, but it doesn't sugarcoat what's happening, and it's kind of creepy to see this humanoid figure having the seams ripped and stuff. So it kind of sets like that. I feel like this movie in general kind of sets the creepy tone by showing stuff in very, very like unpleasantly high detail.
Yeah.
And like you get these weird, almost skeletal hands, but they're made out of sewing needles. What's that about? We don't know yet.
You don't know who this character is, and like it's just very foreboding and very nice. And then once the doll is complete, it's sent on its way, and then the figure closes the window, and then we move into the actual like setting of the movie, the Pink Palace.
Yes. So the Pink Palace is this, big house just out in the middle of the woods in Oregon. Oregon? How do you say that?
Yeah, gone to Oregon.
Gone to Oregon. And it's Oregon. It's split up into different apartments, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
And so here we meet our protagonist, Coraline, and her mother and father, who have just moved in.
Yes.
And we get kind of an implication that Coraline's parents are involved in botany of some sort, but... it's
not super clear what exactly they do, but they're writing some kind of journal or something.
Yeah, the point is they're busy and they don't have time to, humor Coraline and her, like, she's just a kid, basically. The first time we see her, she's, like, going out in the garden and gets, like, a branch, breaks it off into, like, a dowsing rod and tries to find a well, like, that's a bit out of bounds of the house.
Oh, yeah, that's true. that whole opening sequence. It just kind of shows how quirky she is. Also, this movie is based on a book by Neil Gaiman, which
yes.
I read back when I first saw the movie, and I also just read it yesterday as of this recording, just to refresh. And it's just this overall tone of Coraline's kind of an odd girl, you know?
Yeah.
And she's bored. So she's off playing on her own, goes through this little forest scene, finds this fairy ring, which is a bunch of mushrooms in a circle. And then what happens?
Then she meets original character for the movie called... she meets an original character called Wyborn Lovett.
Yes, YB. And YB is a precious cinnamon roll. Yeah. So, yeah, he's a character not from the book, but he was added in, as a lot of, movies do, just so the protagonist isn't just talking to herself the entire time, just someone to bounce off of.
Yeah. In a book, you can just deliberately put out their internal monologue, where in a movie, it's like, it'd just be them walking around for a couple hours, which is not as entertaining. You know, it's like a visual audio medium. So...
And I do want to say, too, having just refreshed myself on the book yesterday, it's a good adaptation, this movie. Yeah. And I mean that in the sense that it is true to a lot of the story, but it does make the changes necessary to make it work in film. And so between the two, I actually prefer the film, which is weird for me. I usually prefer the book. They made a lot of smart choices, basically, adapting it to that visual medium.
Yeah, I read the book after I, saw the movie, and, the book is very good. Neil Gaiman is a great author, and, reading Coraline got me into his other stories, like The Graveyard Book, which is one of my favorites, and Good Omens that he wrote with Terry Pratchett. That's very good. You should read it. And, he really encouraged a lot of creativity to do whatever they wanted in the movie. Mm-hmm. And, he really likes it. He talks about it a lot on, his Tumblr and, I'm assuming, other social media.
I definitely think it's a good thing.
Yeah. I guess, I don't know what the story behind this is, but I guess director Henry Selick actually did get to read the book before it was even published.
Yeah, he did. When Neil Gaiman was thinking about, if this could be adapted into a movie, he thought, oh, you know what, Henry Selick would be great to do it, because he really loved The Nightmare Before Christmas, and he recognized that it was Henry Selick who directed it. A lot of it was Tim Burton's vision, but Henry Selick really brought that vision to a film.
Here's just something I gotta rant about real quick. This is not a Tim Burton movie.
No.
Yes, absolutely. I was about to say the same thing.
It had nothing to do with this movie.
Yeah, Neil Gaiman is very adamant about this not being a Tim Burton movie.
And do you guys want to hear an awful story?
What?
Sure.
So this movie is advertised as from the director of Nightmare Before Christmas. It's misleading. It's true, but everyone thinks Tim Burton. So I live in Canada. Our kind of Nickelodeon equivalent is YTV. And I remember watching a commercial on YTV about the Canadian television debut of Tim Burton's Coraline.
Wow, that's a movie I haven't seen.
I can't believe... I was just baffled that they actually got that wrong. I get why they got it wrong, but come on, guys. Jeez.
Oh, poor Henry Selick. Yeah. Henry Selick, I feel, has... Well, his style is very similar to Tim Burton, because they were, they are friends and classmates of, what was it?
Well, they were all Cal Arts grads.
Yeah, Cal Arts, that's it.
Cal Arts, by the way, is the school that was set up by Disney and the 9 Old Men to train future animators. Mm-hmm. And, some of the first class that was there in, the 70s and 80s are some of the most famous animators in the current market. John Lasseter, Tim Burton, Brad Bird, all from Cal Arts.
Henry Selick, too.
Mm-hmm. Yep, Henry Selick.
And, he and Tim are obviously good friends, and they have the same sort of style, but, I feel like his movies are distinctly his,
Yeah.
James and the Giant Peach is a Henry Selick movie to me.
Yeah.
Coraline is a Henry Selick movie.
Monkey Bone is a movie?
It's a weird movie.
Anyway.
But, the stop motion is very much his.
It's true, yeah.
It exists.
It certainly does.
But yeah, to be fair, The Nightmare Before Christmas was marketed as Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas. Mm-hmm. So when Coraline played up the tie to The Nightmare Before Christmas, it kind of makes sense that people would immediately go to Tim Burton, but...
Yeah, Tim Burton was busy with other movies at the time, but...
Yeah.
But that's a whole other thing.
Sweeney Todd.
I like Sweeney Todd. Anyway, so YB. YB,
Why were you born?
That's so mean.
Well, that's what she says.
I know. I know.
That goes into Coraline's sort of personality throughout the whole movie too.
Yeah,
she is kind of a jerk and a brat, but like she's a kid, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's like the kid jerk and brat where, you know, it's just like everything is a toy, everything is something to be made fun of, and, you know, she's like, she wants to play and she's impatient.
Yeah, the adults just don't understand her, man. They don't understand. They keep calling her Caroline.
Yeah, it's not...
You'll see Caroline.
It's not malicious. She's just kind of a snot.
Yeah.
I can't hate her.
No, I don't hate her either.
Yeah.
Yeah, as somebody that works with kids, it's accurate.
Yeah.
It's revealed that Coraline, like, moved to this place from Michigan, Pontiac, and that was a deliberate choice on the part of the director, because, okay, so Dakota Fanning plays Coraline, and she was about, I don't know, preteen at the time.
Yeah.
So, and animation's a long process, so she would have been having to record things for a few years, so to actually kind of give her something to anchor to in the months in between, you know, recording sessions, they gave her that Pontiac accent to something to default to. Yeah. Okay. Very smart, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you say in your notes that the entire cast was built around Dakota Fanning, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Like, they cast her and just... I derived a lot of my notes, listeners, from the commentary of the film, which it's pretty much just Henry Selick until the credits and when Bruno Coulais comes in. It's a very, very insightful commentary on the production. Recommend.
And Dakota Fanning is a very good voice actress, there, I must say.
Yeah, she's just a really good actress, really. Like, even as a kid, which is really rare to find because, you know, kids, they don't know how to act. Like, they don't know the intricacies of, like, you know, character motivation and stuff like that because they're kids. They, you know, it's just playtime, and that's fine. But, like, it's really easy to blame kids when they suck.
Yeah.
So, like, and it's really easy to praise them when they, you know, are good. Yeah. But Dakota Fanning is really good.
Yeah, she also did voice acting in Totoro.
Yes.
The English dub, so, yeah.
I think she played Lilo in one of the Lilo and Stitch sequels,
Oh, yeah,
too.
the sequel, yeah.
Oh, yes, yes.
So, yeah, this scene where Coraline and Wyborn meet, this whole scene pretty much was animated by Travis Knight, who would go on to direct some Laika movies. Which one did he direct? Was it Kubo?
It might have been Kubo. I'm gonna look right now.
Yeah, Travis Knight. I believe he's...
Yeah, it's Kubo.
He's like the... Travis Knight is the son of, like, the CEO of Nike, and that's where Laika gets its money from, basically.
That explains a lot.
Yeah. Well, you'll actually see pretty much every movie has had a cross-promotion with Nike. That's why.
Yeah, that explains how they're able to keep making movies, really.
That sounds mean.
It's sad, though. They're so good.
They're really good, but they don't destroy the box office like Disney does.
No, I think Coraline was, like, you know, their biggest success. Because
Coraline was very profitable.
Yeah, people weren't expecting that movie to succeed. It came out, like, in February next to My Bloody Valentine 3D and some other thing that I forget. But, like, they were expecting it to get buried, and it didn't, so that's good.
February is a bit of a dumping ground, too, isn't it? Or am I thinking of January?
Yeah. January and February.
No, it definitely is. Yeah. January and February are both, like, even March used to be a dumping ground until Alice in Wonderland changed everything.
The third Kung Fu Panda came out in, like, January. That was weird.
Yeah. Anyway, back to the movie. We, like, going into Coraline's sort of brattiness, we see her parents are sort of, like, deep into their work and kind of, like, brushing her off and saying, like, go explore the house. Let me work. Piss off. And
count the windows or something.
Yeah. All that dialogue is right from the book, too. Like, go count everything that's blue, and very true to the dialogue from the book. Another production note, listeners. So the book is set in England. Neil Gaiman is English. But Henry Selick decided to set it in America, in Oregon specifically. Oregon specifically. Just for the atmosphere of it, those rainy winters.
Yeah.
He decided to set it in America just so in adapting the dialogue, it would be more natural for him. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Like it or not.
Yeah.
Definitely fair.
Neil Gaiman likes it, so why bother to complain?
And a lot of the dialogue really is just lifted right from the book, so.
Yeah. And, like, you see sort of, like, the kind of frustration her parents have with her, but also, you know, they love her and, like, they want to give her attention, but they're just so wrapped up in their work they can't. And it's this weird, tumultuous time where there's really nothing to do in the house, and, like, she doesn't have friends, so she kind of has to, like, entertain herself.
And she's got her quirky neighbors to keep her company.
Yes. Yes.
So upstairs is Mr. Bobinski, played by Ian McShane. Oh, also the parents played by Terry Hatcher and John Hodgman. We're going to talk more about them in a bit.
Yes.
So Ian McShane playing Mr. Bobinski.
The great Bobinski.
The great Bobinski.
Bobinski, Mr. Bobo in the book.
Yes, weird blue Russian man. He's an interesting design, an interesting puppet too.
He kind of reminds me of like a Rankin Bass design for how weird he is.
Yeah, I can dig that. He's a weirdly top-heavy puppet too. A lot of rigging had to be done to actually be able to animate him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he has like these twig arms and twig legs and like this big like apple-shaped middle.
Yeah.
It's very eye-catching. And he's got blue skin, which is weird.
Apparently, Henry Selick says it's because he eats a lot of beets, which turn your skin blue.
he says in the commentary, too, it's because he's outside in the winter all the time, so wouldn't your skin be blue?
That's true. Like, it's just a neat character choice. It, like...
a neat detail. He also has, like, a Chernobyl hero medal on his shirt, so, I mean, maybe he's got that radiation, that good radiation. Who knows?
Maybe. Stay away from him, Coraline.
Yeah. And he's apparently got a mouse circus in his apartment.
Apparently.
He says so.
Mrs. Jones.
Mouse circus is not ready yet.
Mrs. Coraline's mother says he's a drunk, so... And downstairs, we have an eccentric lesbian couple, Miss Spink and Miss Forcible.
Yeah, confirmed word of God lesbian couple.
Yeah, Neil Gaiman confirmed it on his Tumblr.
Yeah, recently, and it's kind of funny because in the commentary, they're always, like, bickering in the movie, and Henry Selick just kind of quips at one point, like, these two ladies don't really love each other.
They're like an old married couple.
Yes, because they probably are. And they're played by great comedic duo Dawn French and Jennifer Saunders.
Funny thing about that is they were originally cast as, like, the opposite characters.
Yeah.
And that's how they originally read the lines, too, and it was not working until Henry said, hey, why don't you guys switch scripts? And then it worked. It clicked.
And it's funny because Miss Spink and Forcible are really, like, designed after them. Like, who's who, again? Spink is the small one?
Yeah.
Like, Spink...
Yeah, Forcible is the, hello one.
Yeah. Spink is, like, really kind of short and, you know, kind of has, like...
She's doughy.
The Dawn French kind of hair, and Miss Forcible kind of looks like Jennifer Saunders, but more exaggerated and very bosom heavy.
Whoa.
But, like...
Very.
Like, you can tell these roles were made for them, and they really are really good in them.
Yeah. And they're these, like, retired Shakespearean actresses with many, many Scotty dogs.
Yes.
Many of whom have passed and are stuffed and up on the wall. It's weird.
Yeah.
A little bit creepy, just a bit.
Couldn't bear to part with them, so we had them stuffed.
Ew.
At one point in the movie, like, they're putting angel wings on one of their alive dogs, like, oh, just looking ahead.
Yeah.
I'm not dead yet.
No.
Quiet, you will be soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They actually provide, all of them actually provide some advice for Coraline, some foreboding advice, like... Bobinski says that his mice have a message for her, don't go through the little door, like in the wall and the furniture that leads to something else that we haven't talked about yet.
Yeah, inside Coraline's apartment, there's this mysterious little door behind the wallpaper. What could that be? Probably nothing.
Yes.
And she's curious because she's looked at every other door in the apartment, and so she asked her mom, where does that door lead? And her mom's like, I'm busy, and she like pesters her. Come on, Mom. I promise I'll be quiet if you just show me this one door.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Real quick before we move on, we got every character except the cat. There's a cat.
Well, yes, there's
yes.
a cat. He comes into play later.
Kitty.
But like, yeah, Mrs. Jones opens it up and it turns out it's bricked off, and like Coraline, but why would they brick it off? And she's like, nope, leave me alone. We promised.
Yeah.
You didn't lock it.
It must have been divided up when the apartments were split in this house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the book, it's a full-size door. In the movie, it's a little tiny door.
Yeah. Which I think is more interesting design-wise
I agree.
for a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is kind of a good visual where she has to like crouch down and crawl through the door.
Ooh,
Yeah.
it's kind of creepy too. Hey, why do we keep talking about how creepy this movie is? So far, it just seems kind of quirky.
Well, I don't know. The one little quirk is also that Coraline has been brought a doll by Wybie that looks exactly like her.
What?
Ooh,
Weird.
With
Yeah.
buttons for eyes. Ooh.
Ooh. Well, it's a doll. That's totally normal to have buttons for eyes. Nothing weird about that.
Oh, there's a
No, of course not.
tangent. There's a cute little video that Neil Gaiman did to promote this movie called Kumpunophobia.
Yeah.
It's very, very tongue-in-cheek, like, silly. You should watch it.
Yeah,
It's still on his
he's
YouTube page.
talking about what an odd phobia.
Just an ordinary button.
Yeah.
Yeah. In his silky voice that is just ASMR for the soul. Next, Coraline finally goes to bed after a boring day, and, like, the door in the living room opens up.
We forgot another thing.
What?
We did?
We did. When she meets Wybie at the fairy ring, there's a secret well there.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes.
That's not important, though, listeners. Let's continue.
Yes. At night, Coraline goes to bed after a boring day and, like, you know, starts to dream, supposedly, that the door opens and a little mouse comes in and lures her down to it.
Ooh.
So she crawls through and, like, you know, she ends up exactly where she was, apparently. In a living room that looks exactly like hers.
Exactly like hers.
And her mother is in the kitchen singing a little ditty.
Nothing foreboding about any of this.
No, especially when the mother turns around and has buttons for eyes.
What? Buttons sewn right on her eyes.
Ew.
Yes, this is Coraline's other mother.
Ooh, other mother? I didn't know I had another mother.
I'm your other mother, silly.
Everyone has one. Just like an unbirthday, apparently.
Yes. Something interesting about the set design here is, so the regular house set and the other house set, like, they're the same. The layout's the same, the sightlines are the same, but they actually did design the other house a bit bigger, so it's more spacious versus the real house being more claustrophobic.
Yeah.
It's not something you might consciously notice, but it's there.
Yeah. Something about, you know, the design, like, the colors pop out a bit more. And, like...
Yeah, they do a lot of subtle changes like that.
Yeah, at first it's a bit warmer, like the kitchen, there's a lot more warmth to it.
Yeah.
Like, it's very good.
Yeah. More color saturation.
Almost like it's under a black light in some ways.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, like the real world is very, like, kind of not sepia, but, like, you know, more drab, not a lot of color, where you go into the alternate world and all of a sudden, like, the tunnel that led to it is, like, illuminated with these, like, starry night type lights, and, you know, you get into the house and everything's in bright colors, and...
How beautiful.
How beautiful. And this is also where she meets her other father, who, instead of lazily working on the computer all day, plays the piano.
Wow.
Or the piano plays him.
Coraline.
Yes, this is where the one song that remains from They Might Be Giants' contribution to this movie remains.
Yeah, this movie was originally going to be a musical. This movie was originally going to be a lot of things, actually. It was originally going to be live action. They kind of stepped away from that, though, just because of how hokey it would look with the cat character.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't want a situation with, like, Salem from Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
That would have been great.
I want that situation.
That would have been great. This would have been the best movie ever.
And there was a lot of pressure to, you know, go the CGI route, too, because CGI animation, you know, in 2009, that's the only thing that makes money.
Yeah,
Stop motion isn't profitable.
That was the hot pocket. Well, it still is, really.
Yeah, so, and they even kind of got to the point where, okay, maybe the real world is in CGI, where the other world is stop motion, and eventually they just settled on doing the full thing in stop motion.
Yes.
But, yeah, so it was originally going to be a musical with songs by They Might Be Giants. This making up a song about Coraline being the only thing remaining from that.
Little short 30-second ditty sung by one of the band members. Very, very cute. And one of the other songs ended up on one of their later albums.
Yeah, Be Careful What You Pack.
Yes, on their album The Edge in 2007. So they were doing this, like, you know, years in advance. Mm-hmm. But they decided the tone needed to be darker.
And just for the record, they did get paid for all their work, and all is well.
They did, yes. There's no
Okay.
There's no grudges.
Yeah. And again, it is Terry Hatcher and John Hodgman playing both her parents, playing them very differently, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like it's a different character. And without jumping too far ahead, Henry Selick did note in the commentary, like, some of the actors in this movie had to play basically multiple characters, in that they play multiple iterations of the same character.
Yeah.
How many iterations? I guess we'll find out, listeners.
Yes, yes. But
Indeed.
when we start, like, everyone's a lot more happier. Like, Terry Hatcher's performance as Coraline's mom has been very, like, kind of, I'm busy, leave me alone, like, exasperated. But when she gets to the other world, she's like, you're just in time for supper, dear. Like, very energetic, very kind of like Leave It to Beaver, 50s mom-esque.
Yeah.
Also, the food is actually appetizing instead of like the slop that her dad makes.
Yeah.
At home.
Yeah, the food looks so good.
There's a scene, like, way later in the movie where the other mother's cooking bacon and eggs. And, like, you can see the bacon bubbling, which in stop motion, like, what a detail to break your back over, but
I
it's
know.
so odd.
It's worth it.
There's a heck of a lot of attention to detail in this movie.
Yeah,
so
for
much.
sure.
And in all of Laika's work, honestly.
Yeah. And, like, we slowly but surely, because in the book, the visit to the other world takes place in the course of one night, but one thing that the movie does better is they pace it out. Like, one night, Coraline just meets her other mother, and other father, and then the next night she meets the other Wybie and the other Bobinski. The next night, the other Miss Spink and Miss Forcible, and it's all, the pacing is very good in this movie, I feel.
I wouldn't necessarily say it's better than the book. It's just, that's part of what I was saying before, is he made the right choices in adapting it to a movie.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Pacing-wise, this movie is very well paced.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the movie, it leaves a lot of area to, like, because we as the audience are just seeing it and we're like, wow, this is new and strange. So it would feel weird for her to immediately, like, be totally in it.
Yeah.
Where in the movie, it's like, it's a short visit and...
Not even sure if it's real.
Right. And then slowly it moves on to the point where she's like, wow, this world is better. My other mother would have let me.
Yeah.
And, you know,
Yeah.
then the trap is set and, oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Then nothing bad happens ever.
No.
no, of course not.
Yeah.
Nope, we're still in the beginning. Nothing strange going on here. Just other mother with buttons on her eyes, and everything's fantastic and lovely and prepared just for her, dear.
Like, there's a special garden outside that her other father tends to, and it's like, let's talk about this garden scene.
Oh, this garden scene, on a technical standpoint alone.
Holy smokes.
Yeah.
Like, once again, everything was done by hand.
If you watch the special features for this movie, you'll see how they rigged it, because, like, as they travel through the garden on this praying mantis-shaped tractor, which is really cool, inspired by a statue Henry Selick saw somewhere at some point. But as they walk along, like, the flowers pop out of the ground alongside them, and, like, this all had to be rigged because stop motion is done on sets, which are basically up on tables. So underneath the table was all this rigging where, as you turn to hand crank, the flowers would pop out. It's really cool.
Very cool. And, like, the whole scene is just, like, a minute, but it's just so like detailed and so good.
Yeah.
Also, amazing work with the lighting.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of the flowers, as she's walking by them, they light up and they bloom, and it goes from, you know, kind of being like sort of a whimsical dark bluish black to like all these vibrant oranges and reds and deep royal blues, and so gorgeous.
So good. Like, all of the set pieces with the other mother's wonders that she prepares for Coraline are really good. Like, the next scene is the other Bobinski's real mice circus.
Yeah. So, like, the garden scene was one of the most complex scenes in the whole film, but the mouse circus scene, that's something special too.
Yeah. Like, you get a lot of interesting camera angles with the mice circus scene. Like, there's a shot where you follow one of the lead mouse on a ball, like, rolling down this, like, what do you call it? Like, it looks like a cape topper almost.
This circus platform.
Yeah, platform.
Oh yeah, and on this night too, when she's exploring with the other Wybie, because she apparently finds him so annoying, this other Wybie can't talk. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
I like him better that way.
Yeah, other mother just says, oh, I thought you wouldn't like him to talk, so I fixed him. How very considerate of her.
Yeah. This mouse circus scene is really neat too. Uses a more traditional stop motion technique in... So the mice, they bounce around and they play their instruments, and they have this squash and stretch effect. They literally, 3D printed separate models for each frame of that squash and stretch. So there's just hundreds of these mouse models, because there's... How many mice do you think are in that scene? Like,
oh, man. Like,
it looks like 40.
Yeah, more than a dozen.
More than 100, possibly. Yeah, a lot of mice.
I don't know about 100, but definitely like at least 30.
Yeah, at least 30 sounds like a good number.
Yeah. It's a lot. It's a lot of mice.
It is a lot. Like,
But yeah, just a lot of things moving. A lot of, like, they have to move in these specific patterns, and they have to jump, and they have to... So complicated.
but
Hey, listeners, something you gotta understand about stop motion. So you gotta animate each frame, pose the puppet, next frame, pose the puppet. If you make a mistake, that can undo days worth of work.
yeah,
So,
Yep.
what comes off as seconds in a movie could come off as like weeks
yeah.
in real time.
Yeah, it's a very, very precise art form. That's why a lot of people don't do it. Like, is it worth it? I say yes.
I say yes too.
Animation fans say yes.
Yeah.
People who are actually involved in the movie, as, like... I was just kind of thinking of Gravity Falls making fun of stop-motion animators.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's like they've got to be masochists to do it, but I'm glad that they do it because it's gorgeous.
It's gorgeous. So gorgeous. Yes, and before Coraline goes off to the third and last wonder, she's intercepted by the cat.
The cat.
The cat. What do you think about that?
The cat I just mentioned in passing, he can't be important or I would have remembered him earlier.
Yes, it must be the other cat, but no, it's not the other cat. It's the cat.
And he can talk.
And he's voiced by Keith David.
Doing an amazing performance.
Like, he was born to play a cat.
You think this place is a dream come true, but you're wrong.
He does this great thing where because Keith David has a very, deep voice, but
He
he
does.
adds these, like, high-pitched notes into the dialogue, which it's very, very cattish. I find he's one
Yeah.
of the, there's a lot of cartoon cats. I find he's one of the few performances that really captured what a cat would sound like. Him, and I really like Phil Hartman as Gigi in Kiki's Delivery Service as well. He's kind of got that squeakiness to it, too.
Yeah. Hey, Kiki, it's me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good old Phil Hartman.
Yeah. It's a really good performance from Keith David.
Yeah, and
As a fan of cats, this is a very good cat.
yes, good cat.
I have a black cat, listeners, and I almost named her, kind of in honor of this movie, I almost named her Cora. Just kind of, in honor of the cat in the movie as a whole.
Yes, just name her Keith.
I could.
Yeah.
Her name is Luna, listeners.
But this is the first indication. Well, not the first, but it's the first solid indication that, hey, this world isn't what it seems.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like poked at it before, but, like when the cat starts talking about it, you kind of start getting the sense of the foreboding tone a bit more.
Yeah, because up to this point, there's been the odd little things, like how Other Mother fixed YB.
I fixed him.
Yeah, exactly. And how, when they tuck Coraline into bed, she falls asleep, and, the other parents just kind of
Watch her.
sit and watch her.
See you soon.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
thanks, I can't sleep now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's almost like it's so... You know how something can be, too creepily perfect? This definitely kind of feels like
Yeah.
that at certain points.
Not to mention the fact that everybody has buttons for eyes. Just a little...
Oh, that's not even worth mentioning.
Yeah, just a little tangent. Neil Gaiman apparently likes buttons for eyes because he did the screenplay for a movie called Mirror Mask, and, the main character of that goes into another world, too, and a lot of the characters have buttons for eyes.
I've been meaning to watch that movie, basically since I saw Coraline. So
Yeah, I haven't watched it in forever.
there's a lot of other little subtleties to it that kind of make the world out to be a bit better. Like, Mr. B in the real world, his middle is like a hanging potbelly, but in the other world, other Bobinski, he's round, but it's more like up in his chest, stuck out. And Wyborn is very hunched over in the real world, but other YB stands up a lot straighter.
Yeah.
Just subtle little fixes.
And Miss Spink and Miss Forcible.
They're naked. Oh my god.
That's not necessarily an improvement. But, yeah, the third wonder is they actually, instead of a little, cellar apartment, or basement apartment? I don't know.
Basement apartment, yeah.
They live in an actual theater, and Coraline goes to see one of their shows with the other YB. And, they have this cute little, ass versus bosom,
You can't
song.
say ass on the podcast.
Why not? It's a PG word.
It's true.
This movie, by the way, definitely earns its PG rating.
Yeah.
It is genuinely creepy and scary, and also, this scene with Spink and Forcible, not a lot of covering
No.
on certain body
There's
parts.
not a lot left to the imagination.
It's funny, during the commentary, Henry Selick says that for some reason this is very upsetting to prudish people. An old lady in a very skimpy outfit is not funny to some. I can imagine.
Yeah, it's just a little silly number where...
Yeah, it's played for laughs.
Yeah.
But, some people took issue with it.
Yeah, but then, like, they do a little high dive act, like a high dive trapeze act, and they shed their old lady clothes, and Miss Meek and Forcible are young, beautiful lesbians.
And this is an interesting shot, too, because, like, so their old lady bodies are, wide, round, and old. They unzip from the top down, basically, like, unzipping a costume, and that, I guess that was a pretty interesting shot to animate, which it must have been. Because, listeners, in stop motion, everything has to be rigged. All the clothing has to have rigging to it so that you can manipulate it and pose it. It's so interesting. Stop motion's cool.
Very cool.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I remember when I was at Disney World in like 1994, they had a Nightmare Before Christmas display, and
awesome.
they showed the unraveling Oogie Boogie puppet, which probably used a similar effect. And
my bugs.
Super cool.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I wish I had something more insightful to say about it other than it was cool, but yeah.
It's just very cool. What more do you want?
Stop motion is rad.
Like, look at this movie. Look at The Nightmare Before Christmas. This was all done mostly with hands. Look at even James and the Giant Peach and how they incorporate, like, live action with stop motion. Stop motion is cool.
Yeah. And, like, this scene in particular, too, like, the performance, the audience is a bunch of Scotty dogs, like the ones that they have in the real world. There's dozens of puppets in this shot.
Yeah.
And they are all moving. It's like an audience of hundreds of them who are all like barking happily at the performance. And
I guess this was done on a crank system as well, just so you wouldn't have to animate them all individually, because that would be nonsense.
Nonsense.
And you can't really see it, but like the puppets in the background are kind of less detailed than the foreground ones, just, as a time saver.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So all of these wonders are very great, and like, if you were Coraline, you'd probably be itching to stay in this world forever, too. And she can.
Yeah, for sure.
The other mother says that she is very welcome to stay, but there's one little thing they have to do first.
Ain't no big deal, guys. Ain't no big deal.
She gives Coraline this little box, and Coraline opens the box. Oh, is it a nice gift? No, it's a, what is it?
2 large black buttons.
Yes, and
a needle and a thread.
Black is traditional.
Oh.
But if you like, we can go pink, chartreuse.
Vermilion.
And Coraline is like, you can see she's starting to freak out at the sight of this. It's actually funny in the book. It's played out a little differently. In the movie, like, she freaks out, pushes the box away, and like shouts. In the book, she opens the box, sees the buttons. I don't think so. That's her reaction.
That's very British.
Yeah.
No.
I don't think so.
No, thank you. Good night. But yeah, that's basically what it is. Coraline rejects the offer, says, oh, you know what, I'll sleep on it, and basically runs upstairs, because every night that she's gone to bed, she somehow ends up back in the real world. Mm-hmm. But not this time.
Ooh.
She wakes up, she's still there.
Ruh-roh.
And this is where it all starts to unravel. She goes to see the other father, who's sort of just playing mindlessly on his piano a bit. And he's just like, mustn't talk while mother's not around. Her strength is our strength.
Yes.
Now's the point where it's just getting straight up. Oh my god, This is creepy.
It starts to become a horror movie at this point.
What happened to the other Wybie? He pulled a long face, and mother didn't like it.
Oh, yeah.
And they make really good use of the squash and stretch here, too, because when he says long face, he, like, does a Jacob Marley, like, his jaw drops.
Yeah, he, like, puts his fingers in his mouth and pulls his jaw, like, right out of shape, and it's...
Yeah, and then the hands that control him and the piano, like, sort of grab his jaw, like, close it shut, and just, like, force him back around, and Coraline's like, ah!
Oh, yeah, spoiler city listeners, it gets weird from this point on.
Weird and creepy.
Yeah. So what? I think at this point she goes downstairs to confront the other mother, who's like sitting in the parlor, eating bugs.
Eating bugs. This is a very like watching her chew is very like an interesting shot to be for some reason.
Yeah, that was another instance of replacement animation where they just kind of switched out her whole face.
Oh yeah, and a subtle thing that the mother has been doing throughout the whole movie is that she slowly but surely stops calling herself and the other father the other parents. She starts calling other father your better father, and she starts calling herself mother.
Yeah.
And Coraline's not having it at this point. She's like, I want you to let me go. And she, is that any way to talk to your mother? You're not my mom. But other mother doesn't like that.
No.
Yep. Nope. Coraline is thrown in timeout.
Yes, but not before other mother turns into this really, like, tall, lanky, bug-like, creepy thing.
Yeah, she, like, stretches out before Coraline's eyes, which... really interesting shot. They must have just had to replace the entire puppet for this shot.
Yeah.
Or
I can only assume.
it might have been some kind of mechanism that would have might have stretched it out to some degree, but yeah, I don't know. I think this was the first like transformation ever depicted in stop motion.
Yeah, and this is where Terry Hatcher's performance as the other mother really starts to get good.
Yeah. Like I mentioned before, some people in this movie are playing like multiple iterations of the same character. This is a good example of that, where she gets a lot nastier in this
Yeah,
one.
she's like, at first she's very restrained, like sort of haughty, like, oh, how dare you, oh. But then she's like, finally goes, I'll give you to the count of 3. 1, 2, 3! Like, she comes very witch-like.
Yeah.
It
does kind of follow the tradition of a lot of, like, I don't want to say, I guess children's stories where when they do the alternate world thing, a lot of the characters are played by the same people. Like Peter Pan does it, and
Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, Wizard of Oz. Does Alice in Wonderland do it?
No. Well, it did in one special, like Hallmark special made for TV.
I guess actually in that one there isn't like much of a parallel to the quote real world.
No, not much.
Yeah, where like in the ones where the fantasy world is supposed to be similar to the real world, the people tend to play multiple parts, but whatever.
Yeah. This is a very much like sort of Alice in Wonderland, like strange surreal world meets Hansel and Gretel type thing, where you slowly realize that the cool house with the awesome treats is more like not that.
more like a trap.
Oh no, the witch wants to eat us.
Your mother rides a vacuum cleaner.
Hansel? So Coraline is pushed through the mirror into her timeout, the mirror in the hallway. And she's in this dark little room, which they almost filmed this scene like in complete darkness, but
oh, that would have been creepy.
That would have been creepy.
Jesus, that would have been creepy.
It's still creepy, but
and in this room are 3 little ghost children, all of whom have button eyes. What?
And all have like terribly mouth agape in horror faces permanently.
Oh, so creepy.
Oh yeah, they're all frozen. This scene is really cool. They animated the ghosts on like 4. Like the rest of the movie's animated on 1s and 2s, but they animated the ghosts on like 4s, so they look... It's like after images trailing after them, and their movement isn't quite lively, which I guess is the right way to...
It's like otherworldly.
Yeah. It's really cool. And they talk about how they were like previous victims of the other mother who all, fell for the charms and...
She lured us here with treats and then stole it.
Yeah. Ugh, creepy.
Yeah, and they have like these ghostly voices and
It's really sad in the book version. Like they don't even remember their names, they don't remember what gender they are. They can't, there's nothing left of them. She took their souls. She ate up their lives, I think they say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, at this point in the movie, it's kind of transitioned to just being a straight up like horror movie.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
It is basically monster is trying to kill us.
But in that cool way that only a kid movie can pull it off.
Yeah, it's like not super intense for kids, but also like it's kind of intense.
I have an anecdote. So I mentioned that I saw this movie with my cousin. At one point, her brother wanted to borrow some movies, and I just threw this movie in the pile. And he watched it, and he like told me afterwards that this was one of the scariest movies he ever saw, and he had nightmares about button eyes after that.
Yeah, it's creepy.
Yeah. I saw this movie when I was like 23 years old, so I can't comment on that. But yeah, I was watching it and I was like, oh, geez, I would have had nightmares about this if I was like 10 still.
This cousin, by the way, was probably 23 at the time. Yeah. So,
Nice.
no,
See, when you say cousin, I'm always thinking you're talking about like your little cousins.
no, this is like my same age as me, cousin.
Yeah.
But it's kind of funny to think about what scares kids versus what scares adults. What we find creepy versus what a kid might not even think twice about.
Neil Gaiman, I think, has said that more adults find this book creepy than kids do for reasons that are probably obvious when you think about them.
Mm-hmm. So how does she get out of the mirror again?
Other YB pulls her out.
Right.
He's wearing this, like, weird Jason-looking burlap mask at first, and Coraline pulls it off, and it's revealed that when Mother made him, she got upset when she saw him frowning, so she sewed a little permanent smile on his face that's not creepy at all.
No.
I'm just going to be going a lot through the rest of this, because, God, all this is so creepy. Anyway.
The thing he was wearing over his face, actually, was like the pot holder from the kitchen before. Yeah, it's a chicken mask.
Oh, it looked like Jason for me.
It goes a little quickly, but yeah, that's what it is. A lot of details in this movie, guys. A lot of details.
Ooh.
So yeah, other YB rescues her, and so Coraline at this point says like, "Oh well, I'm gonna escape. I'm gonna go back through the door. You come with me, she'll hurt you some more." And he, other YB wears gloves. He takes off his glove, and it's revealed his hand is just made out of sawdust, and he like blows it away. He's trying to show her that like it doesn't matter. I'm not real. It doesn't matter if she hurts me.
Yeah.
I'm just a construction. Everything in this world is just a construction by the other mother.
And right as the other mother comes down, like, Coraline, what are you doing? He pushes her into the door, closes it, and Coraline escapes, and that should be the end of it, but it's not. Where are her parents?
Where are the parents at?
Yes, where are they?
There's a sad scene where she's like, she's lonely and her mom and dad are gone and just
there's a slow realization that her parents are just missing and no one knows where they are.
This scene is like 3 days long in the book, and I found that a little weird.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
It's sad, but also strange. I don't know what to make of it. I think it's paced better in the movie.
Yeah, it is.
They do kind of imply that it's been a long time in the movie because, like, right before she goes into the other world, her mom is going to get groceries, and then she comes back and the groceries are still sitting on the kitchen counter and rotten.
Yeah.
Creepy.
Yeah, and, like, the other adults don't really do much to help her, and neither does the real YB, who comes over to the house to try and get the doll at his grandma's insistence, because YB's grandma owns the Pink Palace, and she normally doesn't rent the Pink Palace out to people with kids.
Why not?
Because it turns out old Grandma Lovad, or whatever, her sister is one of the ghost children.
Oh no. The sweet ghost girl.
Yes, the sweet one.
Yeah.
There's a weird deleted scene where Coraline asks YB, "Your grandma's black, right?" And he's like, yeah.
Oh, it's such a loss, because one of the ghost children is a little black girl, and YB's like, his race is kind of ambiguous. He's...
Yeah.
I'd say he's probably mixed race. So she asks him, because she recognizes the ghost, and is like, "Oh, your grandma's black, right?" And she says it really matter-of-factly, and YB's just like, yeah? It's very good.
But yeah, she tries to find the doll that she figures that the other mother has been using as a spy, and she tells YB all about it, but he doesn't believe her.
Wow.
She's had that doll since she was...
Yeah. And, like, Miss Spink and Miss Forcible were supposed to hitch a ride with Coraline's parents to a theater, and now they're more concerned about that than they are about them being lost. But they do give Coraline a little gift made out of taffy.
It's a little stone. A little green
stone.
A little green stone.
Yeah, it's the stone at the bottom of a taffy bowl that they, like, hack out with a pitchfork.
Yeah.
With knitting needles.
No, pitchfork, sorry.
Pitchfork would have been way too extreme.
This is like the one kind of fake out horror scene where Miss Spink grabs the knitting needles and she like screams, and the way it's framed looks like she's going to attack Coraline. It's very good.
It's so funny.
I love to like, and then she's like hacking at because the taffy's all dry. That's why she's chopping at it, and she kind of looks up and smiles. It gets me every time.
It's vintage taffy from 1921.
Yeah. 100-year-old taffy. How is 100-year-old taffy gonna help me? It's great. But yeah, eventually Coraline goes back into like, her main house and like goes into her parents' room and like gathers up some pillows and makes them in the form of her mom and dad, and she kisses them goodnight and cries herself to sleep.
It's so sad.
Aw.
And that's where you sort of get that real moment, like, oh yeah, despite, they've been kind of at each other's throats throughout the movie. Her and her mom more so than her dad, who's kind of chill but also overworked.
Yeah.
But like at the end of the day, Coraline does love her parents, and it's sad. It's relatable.
Neat bit of trivia, actually, also in this scene. There's a picture of the family on like the dresser or whatever. Hey, listeners, did you notice throughout this entire movie, Coraline's hair is blue?
Yes.
In this photograph, you can actually see her natural hair color is brown, so she just has dyed hair. She's, yeah, just a neat little detail.
Ah, okay. I was wondering if there was a reason for that, because I did notice that when I was rewatching it.
Yeah, I actually think the promo image that I'm going to be using in the thumbnail for this episode, I think her hair is brown in that too, which is kind of odd, but yeah. Just dyed hair. Because yeah, she's the only, I was going to say she's the only Technicolor character in this movie, but then Mr. B exists.
Yeah, but then she's woken up by the cat, who takes her to the mirror in her real house that, in the other house that their mother pushed her in. And what should be in it but her parents?
Oh no.
They're cold and old and so full of mold.
Yeah, they're trapped in there, and like they write on the fog on the glass, like, help us, they write it backwards. It's, oh no, other mother has them.
So Coraline has to go back.
Yeah, again, it's like, this movie does not play down the creepy parts. Like,
Yeah, like, when she, gets everything she needs and goes through the tunnel again, the tunnel has turned from this, wondrous thing to sort of like this creepy, like, cobweb-filled thing with, like, lots of knickknacks inside, and, like, it almost looks like it's breathing.
Yeah. You know what? I think I know what that's about. It's you said cobwebby. There's like toys and stuff stuck in the walls, like a trap, with bait in it.
Yeah.
Cobwebby.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that doesn't mean anything though.
Yeah.
No, of course not.
Let's continue.
And this is where the cat tells Coraline that she should challenge the other mother because she loves to play games.
There's a detail I like here. Real quick, as they're going through the tunnel, Coraline's crawling, the cat's walking beside her. So, like, the cat can't talk in the real world, but as they're going through the tunnel, you see him just shake his head, just a little twitch, and then he starts speaking. Just a tiny little thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in the real world, he, like, does this nod thing.
On the other end, the other mother is waiting, and Coraline's like, where's my parents? I don't know, maybe they ran off to France and got bored with you.
Yeah.
And, like, the other father has turned into this deformed Danny DeVito.
He's like this pumpkin man.
Oh, boy.
Did you read the book as well, Carrie?
I read the first half of it, but I didn't read the end of it yet.
Okay. 'Cause, yeah. Jason, do you remember what the other father's like in the book?
Yeah.
It's not pleasant.
Not at all.
This is an upgrade. You think the other father's creepy in this movie? This is an upgrade.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd rather be a creepy Danny DeVito than... But yeah, this is where Coraline makes a deal with the other mother that... a game, if you will. That if she finds the ghost children's eyes and her parents, who are trapped, then the other mother has to let her go. But if she doesn't, then Coraline will stay and let her sew the buttons in her eyes. And this is where the climax kicks in, and it's a good climax.
For sure. I am kind of curious what the what the father thing in the book was, though.
I think he was kind of more like a squash than a pumpkin, and like he eventually loses all like form and like kind of turns into a puddle that still like has to pursue Coraline at other mother's insistence.
Oh, okay. So
it's creepy.
Like,
I haven't read it in a while, but
so
it's creepy.
Kind of going more into how like things in that world aren't actually people; they're just like inanimate objects that the other mother has made like people, or
sort of like that, yeah.
Okay. Ooh, creepy.
But like the climax, it's just like she has to go through all the past like wonders, quote unquote, that the other mother made for her and find the eyes hidden somewhere in them.
Yep, she insists on a clue before agreeing to the challenge. So yeah, other mother is finally like, in each of the 3 wonders that I've prepared for you, a ghost eye is hidden in plain sight.
And she does this creepy thing that happens in the book too, where she sort of taps on the button in her eye, like while Coraline is thinking about it, and says, "All right, I guess it's a deal." Turns around, and then she's gone, and the tapping is just the, tap water from the sink.
And it's like a ticking clock.
Yeah, and like I love this kind of stuff. This is my stuff where she goes back into the respective wonders, and they've just become like
nightmares,
decrepit, deformed, like evil versions of what they previously were, and even the music is like distorted, like themes of what they were before, and it's just great.
There was also a scene earlier that we didn't talk about where Coraline tries to go over towards where the well is in the real world, and there's just nothing. It's like pure, all white, and slowly the trees like unravel and
lose their detail and become like sketches.
Which is a really cool shot.
It is a really cool shot. Was that done with CGI, or what was done with CGI?
No, that was actually done in model.
Oh, hot damn.
Yeah, it was. Because I guess they did a similar effect, like it did a similar effect for some Pillsbury commercials.
Oh, neat.
So they were able to do that. And so they try to walk to the well, Coraline and the cat, and they end up kind of walking back to the house. They walk around the world.
Yeah.
Small world.
Yeah, Other Mother only built as much as she knew would impress her.
It's a small world after all.
And like this goes into the true nature of Other Mother too. She isn't a creator; she's a copier. She can only copy things that interest Coraline and what she saw through the doll, probably
just enough to impress her.
Yeah. And like the garden in particular is such an atmospheric, creepy, like what was once cute, like the snapping dragons that would tickle Coraline's feet are really snapping at her heels now. And the cute little tractor that Other Father was riding is now like controlling him to try and kill her.
There's this totally creepy ass scene where like there's vines that almost drag her into this like gaping stone mouth thing. Again, this movie's just gone like full creepy horror, almost horror movie mode at this point. And
one of the most effective jump scares comes when she goes to the theater, and she hears this snoring, and she has a flashlight, and she looks up, and the dogs have turned into bats, and like it's creepy. And there's this huge taffy on stage, and lo and behold, one of the ghost eyes is in it. So she reaches in, and it's the ghost eye is one of the pearls that one of the ladies wears as a ring.
And she got the ghost eye from the garden as well. The Other Father took it. It was like the
knob that he was using to control the
tractor
mantis.
thing.
Yeah. And like she has to pry open, she
has to reach into the taffy first.
Yeah, then she has to pull out the hands, she has to pry open the fingers, and then she has to reach for the pearl eye thing. And then the hands close on her, and like Spink and Forcible are thief.
Oh, it's such a good performance on those lines, such a good read, and they're all like they've become taffy too, and they're all twisted together. There's a real monster.
Ugh. And like when you listen to that score on itself, like there is almost no indication of when that like grab is gonna happen. So it's always like you're listening to this atmospheric thing, then it goes bam, bam, like
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out why these scenes are so freaking creepy. Like, I don't know, maybe it's just because they are these like twisted versions of, what used to be whimsical. It's almost like that contrast just makes it so like foreboding. I don't know.
Yeah. Ugh.
I think it's an easy to empathize with situation too. I mean, if you were in that theater and you saw that taffy and you knew you had to reach in there,
it looks like it's almost fetus-like. It's terrible.
Like a womb. Or an egg sac. It talks about it like an egg sac in the book.
Creepy. Oh, egg sac. I don't like that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I do have to say that, like, they did an excellent job with the direction in the movie. Like, not only did they do a great job with the animation, but the camera work is fantastic. In, like, it lets you follow the thought process of the main character, and, you have all these different dynamic shots. Like, they have low shots, they have high shots. It just really makes you feel immersed in the world, and again, excellent, just pulls you right in.
Yeah. And the third and final wonder and challenge is Mr. Bobinski's Mice Circus. And
mice?
Right. Yes, mice. What else would it be?
Of course.
And as she's going up to, the attic, she sees like almost like a flag other Wybe's skin just floating in the breeze. Then she actually goes inside, and the other bee is like, "Hello, Caroline."
Yeah,
like very distorted and kind of drunk.
yeah, that was his Ian McShane's direction on these lines, is actually read it like you're drunk, and it's so off kilter and so creepy.
Like, he's such a great character actor, and he really knocks it out of the park in this.
And he's like slithering around, and
like you can't even see his face.
Yeah.
I guess that's another thing that makes this creepy is like they do that like totally non-human motion. It's like the equivalent of like the Omen when the girl's head, or not the Omen,
The Exorcist.
The Exorcist when the girl's head turns around. It's like, just seeing this humanoid character all of a sudden do this like totally non-human creepy thing.
Even the spider walk deleted scene.
Ooh.
Like, creepy. And
he's like slithering around and kind of leads her back to the circus tent. It's such... So Henry Selick in the commentary talks about how, like, the animators are the real actors of a stop-motion film.
Yeah.
And so I want to say, like, this... just Mr. B in these shots is so well acted.
He is.
He's sitting on top of the platform that the mice were, dancing on before, and, like, his arms and legs are just kind of flopping around. He's become formless under his outfit. Gee, why might that be?
Coraline tells him, "You're just a copy of the real Mr. B." "Not even that anymore." And she takes off the hat, and then it's a rat. What was originally the mouse leader is now a disgusting, hideous rat.
And it's not Mr. B anymore. It's just a pile of rats underneath his coat. And, like, you could see before, too, you could see shapes moving underneath the clothes. Like, as someone who likes rats, this is gross.
Yeah. The rat leader almost nearly gets away with the final eye.
Yeah, this little shots here, animated by Juliana Cox, which you gotta give her some praise. There's a lot of rats to keep track of in this scene, and unlike the mice earlier, they're all doing different things.
Yeah.
It's a short shot, but a lot of work put into that.
Yeah, and then, like, Coraline's outside. There's this, like, kind of weird eclipse thing going on where there's this button shadow over the moon.
Ticking clock.
Yeah, the timer. And it's almost gonna consume the entire moon, and all seems lost. But then the cat shows up with a decapitated rat head with the eye and says, "Here you go."
Yeah.
I don't like rats, even in the best of times.
Yeah. As she's fleeing the apartment, the whole balcony she's coming down breaks away.
Oh, yeah.
This was animated by Chris Tichborne.
Tichborne?
This very, very complex shot.
Such an impressive shot. Like, the entire world slowly unravels and turns to white, and all the strands are flying off of everything, and...
Oh, yeah, the whole, There's a shot too, like as she runs into the house where like you can see the boards of the steps flying up. That's animated by Jeff Riley.
Mm-hmm.
Because as soon as she has all three ghost eyes, the world just starts collapsing.
Yeah, and like she goes back into the house, and even while she's like walking into the parlor, like you can see the wallpaper kind of peel up and everything sort of collapsing slowly behind her, and it sort of reflects the other mother's current state. And if you thought she was bad before, she's even worse now.
Oh, I love this design. I love this design, you guys.
It's so huge and spider-like. It's so creepy. And Terry Hatcher's performance, she was originally like, directed to do it kind of hammy, like, "Oh, now you're gonna stay here forever." But like the final thing was very soft and whispery.
I have things to say.
Say the things.
The design of the other mother's final form, so good. She's got, like, her face has become kind of like a cracked porcelain doll. She's got these 4 spidery legs that are made of sewing needles. This is where we figure out she was the hands at the beginning, making the puppet her hands are like these skeletal needle hands. Her just everything about her looks so cool. And yeah, the vocal performance here, it's so quiet and subtle. She's strained and losing her strength.
Back. And you brought vermin with you. Like, it's so good.
Yeah. Like, there's no mask anymore.
Yeah. This is where Coraline figures out that, her parents are trapped in a snow globe on the mantelpiece. And, like, she has to outsmart the other mother because even if she wins, she won't let her go, obviously.
No. Yeah.
And she's like, I know where my parents are. They're behind the door. Like, the door leading into the real world that other mother locked and ate the key.
Yeah.
Because there's only one key.
Doubles of everything, but only one key.
Yes. And other mother, like, coughs it up and opens it up. Like, you're wrong.
Yeah, she has to gloat about it. And
Yeah.
Coraline knew this, yeah.
So Coraline, to distract the other mother, throws the cat in her face.
Cat rips off her button eyes.
You wretched guy!
Yeah, this is where the Terry Hatcher's performance, like, goes up an octave, like, really cackling, evil, like,
But it's more panicked. It's panicked because she's losing now. So
Yeah.
Coraline grabs a snow globe and just... I didn't even think about this till I was watching the movie the other day, but this climax... So other mother, like, stomps her feet and the whole thing just falls apart. You see boards, like the floorboards, half of them fly up, half of them sink down into this spider web. Rigging that must have been an absolute nightmare.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they did show in the special features, they showed the actual rig of them filming the spider web from the underneath. Oh, that's set.
Ugh, so good. It's not even in the movie that long, but it's so good.
Yeah.
And, like, it just shows how much of a spider like the other mother is, and, like, ugh. And, like, how she listens to the web, and Coraline, like, at one point, her bag gets stuck, and she has to pull it out, but it, like,
Twangs
sends
the
sound
web. Yeah.
sends sound waves to the other mother, like, oh, there you are.
Oh, so good.
The cat tore her eyes out at this point, so she has to rely on more spider-like instincts.
This entire end scene.
This scene is gory in the book.
Oh,
like
yeah.
the cat like literally like ripped her face up and there's blood.
Jeez.
And I love the bit where Coraline finally makes it to the door and she's crawling through and she slams the door shut and you hear the other mother like bang against it.
Yeah,
quiet
it
for
gets
a
closer
second.
and closer to her.
And like she hits against it and for a minute it's quiet, but then she just screams and just starts banging on the door. As she bangs on it, the tunnel is like caving in and you hear her shrieking like,
Yeah.
don't leave me, I'll die without you. And she sounds panicked. It's so tense. It's so scary.
And when she finally closes the door, locks it, the key pops out and she grabs it and like takes a breather, everything's quiet, and it's like, you take a breather too.
And the audience stops having a heart attack.
Yeah. Because it was hectic for a hot second there. Yeah.
Yeah, her parents come back none the wiser, covered in snow. And they're like, we have a lot to celebrate. The garden catalog.
Yeah. Everything is well.
Yes.
Or is it?
Dun dun dun.
That's really what another great thing about this movie is that, like, right after the payoff and the climax, there's one more thing that they have to worry about, the key.
Because it was not going to be that easy. And that's, I mean, I say that, it was pretty hard up to this point, but
Yeah.
you think other mother's going to give up that easily?
She gets a vision from the 3 saved ghost children saying that you have to get rid of the key or the other mother will do this again.
So notes on this scene, it's based on the Starry Night painting, and it's beautiful. The backgrounds here were done in CGI. How else are you going to do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the few CGI shots.
And to compare to the book, because reading the book yesterday, it's not as specific about who the kids actually are. Like, since Wybie doesn't exist in the book, there's no Wybie's grandmother or anything. One of the kids, it's funny. So you got the little boy, you got the little girl, and then you have a fairy. It's a kid who has, like, wings, and, like, there's a scene where they all have a picnic in Coraline's dream, and this kid's eating flowers, and it's interesting.
Huh.
Neat.
There's a thing Neil Gaiman said, too, about the other mother, in that she's not the only one of her kind.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a creepy thought.
The cat in the book talks, like, kind of alludes to that a lot, like, things of her kind don't, give up that easily and stuff.
Perhaps you have another mother listening, audience.
Maybe.
Not that we're trying to make you scared.
Carrie, it's so scary.
Oh, no. And, yeah, Coraline decides, like, I gotta get rid of this key, and then where should she decide to drop it but the well?
Yeah, so the ghost kids are free, and Coraline's just gonna, go deal with this key. But through the door, the other mother's hand, because in the struggle, other mother's hand got cut off, and it slips through the door, and it goes after Coraline.
Yeah.
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 And oh no, the other mother has the key, and then vroom.
YB, you mentioned in the notes you made that there was a Sam Raimi kind of shot to this too.
Oh yeah. Yeah. The hand gets a hold of the key, and it's like dragging Coraline towards the well. And there's this really fast, not towards the well, back towards the house. There's this fast zoom from the well, through the forest, up the steps, through the house, and right to the door where it's getting banged on again. Other mother's there. She's ready.
Yeah. This whole climax is very kind of Evil Dead 2, where the main character has to cut off his own hand because it's possessed, and the hand starts to, like, mess with him and attack him at times and flip him off.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very, very Evil Dead.
Yeah. But yes, YB swoops in to save the day, but this was very carefully directed in, to not make Coraline like the damsel who gets saved by the boy, where they have to work together.
Yeah, they have to save each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, at first it looks like he's going to save her, but then he ends up in danger and Coraline has to save her, and then he finally crushes the hand, so it took both of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they dump it in the well, along with the key.
The well's so deep that if you're at the bottom and looked up, you'd see a sky full of stars in the middle of the day. I don't know what that means, but it's very evocative imagery.
Yeah.
It sounds pretty.
Yeah.
Yes, and now all is well, and
Phew.
Coraline and her family and the rest of the neighbors have a little garden party, and Coraline says to YB, "Oh, invite your grandma, I have a lot to tell her."
And yeah, that's how the movie ends. We finally meet YB's grandma, and it's cute, and all is well.
Yes, except for the cat disappearing Cheshire Cat-like.
Well, I think that's pretty well. It's good for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah, an indication that, I guess that magic is still real.
Mysterious things are still happening.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ooh.
But hopefully that's the last we'll see of the other mother. Hopefully.
Please,
Who
God,
knows?
my heart can't take anymore. Like, this movie is just genuinely terrifying at the end.
Yeah,
It
for
just
sure.
gets more and more grotesque in its motion and more distorted and creepy. Like,
Creepy.
by the time the climax is done, it's like a genuine relief.
Yeah. And it's cute to see at the end of it all. Like, now that her parents aren't as busy with the catalog, they can finally have fun together. It was, like, they're not... Well, okay, so Coraline was being a bit neglected there for a hot second, but it's, it wasn't malicious.
No.
Her parents were busy, but now, you know what? Now we can be happy again.
Yeah, and there's even a nice payoff with her relationship with her mom, where, hey, her mom got her the gloves that she wanted and was mad that she couldn't have. My other mother would have gotten them.
Yeah.
Well, her mother got them too. Aw.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah. There's, over the credit sequence, you get to see, like, some of the dog and bat puppets playing around on the credits. This was just an eye catch to keep people, to stay in the theater to memorize all the names of the hard workers who worked on this movie.
And then they show, Laika does this thing at the end of every one of their movies where they show how they did a certain scene. And, this one is at the beginning of Coraline's, first little dream sequence, quote-unquote. There's the door opens and this, these mice-like ghosts come out, four of them, and they, move around a bunch.
Like ribbons.
Yeah, like ribbons.
They're like ribbons. This was going to be a longer sequence than what ended up being in the movie, so this was just kind of a way to show the full animation there. Just tacking on at the end. And I like that Laika does this because it's a really good view of the technical side of it, because it's like an unedited shot. It doesn't have any of the post-production, rather. And you see how much rigging has to go into this.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see the rigging, you see the animators, and...
In their other movies when they do this, you can see, the, people actually moving the puppets, too.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I guess the version that I watched did not have this scene of Coraline, but yes, they do that in the Box Trolls and Kubo, where they just show the animators moving the puppets every single frame.
Yeah.
Serious kudos to Laika, though.
Yeah, on that note, what are your final thoughts on this movie?
Coraline is one of my favorite movies.
Me too.
Watch it.
It's
Heck
probably
yeah.
It's probably still my favorite Laika movie.
My final thoughts are, there are not a lot of movies nowadays that really, truly impress me in terms of just the technical aspects of their animation. Classic Disney did this all the time, just because you get to think about how every single frame was painted by hand. Where this movie is like that because you have that every single frame was moved individually. So this movie just mind blowing in the animation, and this Leica is one of the studios that I will watch any of their films that comes out in addition to like Disney, Pixar, and Studio Ghibli. So A+.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Double A+. 2 A's, 2 pluses.
Yeah, and it definitely holds up. Like it's one of those movies that just, you can look for more and more detail the more you watch it, so it does not get old.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, like it's almost 10 years old now. Still so impressive, still so good. Very tightly written, very timeless.
Yeah, for sure.
Unfortunately, it's become more of a cult classic. Like, it did okay at the box office, but it didn't, like, blow sales away, where now it seems like a lot more people know about it and love it.
Yeah, for sure. It's probably the most successful movie that Leica has made, which is a shame because, I think we talked about this earlier, but they have very diminishing returns and it sucks.
Yeah. This one made like 120 million worldwide. Paranorman and Box Trolls made like 100. Kubo unfortunately only made like 50 to 60, which is a damn shame.
That is a crime.
Damn shame, because Kubo has probably their most impressive animation yet.
Yeah, we definitely got to do an episode on Kubo.
I'm sure we will in the future.
Yes.
Yeah, Leica.
Also, Leica has The Missing Link coming out in a few months, actually.
Oh, that's true. We'll definitely do a reaction episode to that.
Yes, we must support it.
100%.
Support Leica, whoever they are.
Please give them your money.
Please, we beg you, yes.
They got that sweet Nike Dosh, but they need, like, box office money, too.
Yes, they can only coast on Nike for so long.
Yeah.
Probably forever, but...
Yeah, Leica needs money. Also, Cartoon Saloon, the Irish animation studio, they desperately need money too because they're another one of those studios that's just awesome with every movie they produce.
Yes.
Who else needs money? Hey guys,
we need money, but
if we started a Patreon, who would be into that?
Yeah, and everybody leaves. This is the end of our
Well,
podcast.
I mean, like there was a Japanese anime studio that started a Patreon.
Wow.
Studio Trigger, the Little Witch Academia people.
Oh, that's nice.
So, if you respect us as much as you do a Japanese animation studio...
Let us know in the comments. Like, subscribe, ring that bell, eat my cake. I don't know.
Eat my shorts.
Do all those other engagement things.
Yes. Share us on Twitter, Facebook.
Also, don't go into little door.
No, don't do that.
Have beat make you strong. All right, I think that's gonna do it for us here on the old Destination Animation. I always want to say Destination.
Destination.
Destination Animation.
This is a destination for animation, a chance for friends to meet. Anyway.
What a jam. Any last final thoughts? I don't know, man. I love this movie.
Yeah, if you like this movie, you should read the book. If you like the book, you should watch the movie and watch more Neil Gaiman stuff. He's great.
Do all the things.
Yeah, read Neil Gaiman, watch Leica.
Watch more.
Watch Leica, read Leica. I could write an essay about every frame of this movie.
Yes.
I imagine so. There probably will be, like, theses. Well, I don't know. Do animation students do theses or thesi or...
Theses.
They do.
I don't know.
I think they do films. They make movies. I think that's kind of their equivalent.
Yeah.
I know animation students. I should learn these things.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so who are we?
I am Carrie Dreblow. You can find me at YouTube at Animation Critic, all one word. I review animated movies, not yet, and anime.
And I'm Becca McGraw. I'm a digital artist, somewhat of an animator. You might be seeing more of that soon, guys. You can find all my work at rebexorcist.com.
I'm hungry. And I'm Jason Knott. You can find me on whatever reviews on blogger.com, where I talk about all sorts of movies and such.
Our theme music was written by Mitchell McGraw, who his social media presence is in a bit of a flux right now, so I'm not going to plug anything this time. All right, so that's going to do it for us. Happy Halloween the 1st, the 5th. When is this episode? Mitch, play us out.
Ta-da!
Hey, what's everyone's history with this movie?
Oh, well, what's your history?
Well, Okay.
Yes, let's just keep passing it around. Eventually someone will pick it up.
Yeah. Should we, like, talk about the movie now?
Nah, let's talk about the making of the movie for an hour.
But I like geeking out about animation.
Yes.
But yes, we can talk about the movie.
Like, really, though.
I really apologize. I've had to throw Maya out of the way like 4 times now because she keeps getting in front of the microphone.
Don't throw Maya. She's a host. Oh, yeah, true. That's something we gotta talk about later. Sorry. Edit this out. I'm drinking so much tea, I gotta pee again. Just 1 second. Sorry, guys.
Oh my goodness. Again, wear a diaper, you cowards. Like me.
Jason.
That's going in the outtakes.
I don't know about that one.
Do it.
Bex is gone. I can pet my kitty in front of the microphone and she'll purr.
Purr.
Kitty.
Do it. Purr, you cat. You cat.
I don't think the microphone's picking her up.
We're also going to be trying out a new editor on this episode, and if this doesn't work out, just edit out this part.
Yeah. If this doesn't work out, edit yourself. No.